Hello friends and welcome. I had filmed a shorter version to post last week, but I'm missing my clip on my microphone. The little thing came unplugged, so I got done, after 20 minutes of filming, and there was not sound after the first couple of minutes. I still don't have my clip, so I'm putting it in my pocket, hoping that this time it will stay with me the whole time and my voice stays with the video. But this is last week's shorter version because I think it was one that a lot of you would like a lot, so I want to bring that back in. We're going to try to do a shorter condensed version of just mainly abdominals, just to kind of have one that you can come in and condition with, if that's all you have time for, or just to hit it on a regular basis without doing an entire class, say, and still get those benefits. So, solar plexus, right? Go ahead and come down onto your back. And once you are on your back, you're going to just have your feet a little wide and your knees lean in. We won't be here for as long, but just take a couple of moments, arms in Shavasana, and just tune in to where you're starting from. And when we do abdominal work, hopefully this is clear from me talking about it a decent amount, but I think it's really important to be able to soften this area and have it be really supple, as well as to be able to engage it. So, at will, we have that ability to engage it and have it be active and supportive for us, but we can also turn that off at any point in time and let the muscle be very supple, right? So right now is the supple time, soft belly breath, right? And that belly is so soft that your diaphragm has room to do its job. It's great. Diaphragmatic breath is the fancy name. And then from there, go ahead and walk your feet into hip distance without using your upper body. So keep your upper body super chill and out of this. You're going to bring your right knee in towards your chest. Low back can round. Notice, in fact, that it does probably. Bring that right foot down to the ground, right? And then you're going to bring that left leg up. You don't have to be hooked up to the breath quite yet. We'll get there in a second. Again, you notice that your sacrum rocks, the low back rounds down to the ground, and bring that down. And now do that one more time, adding breath. You're going to exhale the right knee up. That's when your diaphragm automatically has a little movement up. Yeah. Bring that down on the inhale, and exhale, bring your left knee in towards your chest, letting the low back round this time. Now, the next time you come up, only go as high as you can with that knee, or far in, I should say, to the chest, without rounding the low back. So now we're adding pelvis stability. And when we add that pelvis stability, there's a number of muscles that need to work. Left knee is going to come up, follow your breath, right? Keep going. But the main one I'm hoping that you can get access to is your transversus abdominus, the deepest layer of your abdominals. It's the one we've been working with for 2 weeks now. Well, many years, quite honestly, but the past 2 weeks we've been focusing on that solar plexus area. So then from there, now bring it into tabletop. That means your thigh is a little further away. We are bearing a little more weight, and it becomes a little bit more intense, I'm going to call it, to do this exercise. You can go back a stage anytime, right? I think we tend to go in rote when we get into this stuff, and partly it's just like we want to get it done, so we move fast, and or we just aren't paying attention because it's just the same thing over and over. So challenge yourself, be mindful, right? Move slowly, move on the breath, and with a slower breath. That way we keep that really calm mind, right? Even though we have this vibrant energy moving throughout our body. Now the next time the right leg comes up, leave it up, and then bring your left leg up. The legs are hip distance, and look down and see if your heels are moving in towards each other. If that's your pattern, rotate your inner groin forward so that your knees and your heels are the distance of those hip joints, right? So hip distance. Keep that low belly gently toned down so you don't overarch your low back. And, try to find that place where you can do it without just completely being rigid and being so hard that everything in there doesn't have a chance for any kind of mobility, right? I laugh. I did that for years, by the way. Between all of my anxiety and panic stuff and constantly tensing my abdominals, thinking I was doing the right thing by working them. I don't know that I did a lot of benefit during that period. Bring one leg down and then the other and just pause. When I found my really wonderful mentor, Carmen Fitzgibbon, one of the first things she worked with me was releasing my abdominals and trying to teach me how to not be so hard in that area all the time. And it took a bit to unwind. So may that be a lesson to you through me, so to speak. That idea that you can work too hard in this area and too much and become rigid. Yeah, don't do that either. We don't want to go to one extreme on either side. Okay, so now we're going to add on. So now slide your arms out to the shape of a T, or up, I guess. Bring your left leg in a tabletop. Find that transversus abdominus right away. Pardon me. Bring your right leg up. Hug your knees in. Hug your heels in, or at least the ball mounds of your feet. You can keep your heels a little separate. And keep that glued together. Try not to lose that. Let your legs go over to the right a little as you look to the left. And inhale back to center. Now, if you needed a gentler version of this, you're going to go to the left, look to the right, and then that's the pattern, right? If you want to be curious, you can look at your knees. If when you go to the right, the left knee slides off the right. For today, there's different ways to work this, but try not to let the knees slide apart today as you move through, right? And now we're trying to engage that side area. The modification, don't go as far into the twist. It doesn't have to be very far in, right? My waist is plenty strong without me dropping my legs to the ground. I never go all the way to the ground unless I'm going to release and soften, right? I don't have to push myself that far, and I still get great work. You could also bring the knees closer to the chest and just let it be a little softer that way. After you've gone to the left the next time, come back to center, put the feet down on the ground one at a time, arms down a little bit, walk your feet wide, lean your knees in, go back to supple belly, soft belly breath. Let the belly be super soft. Can you let go of that engagement that we were just asking of it? Oh my gosh, I'm full of yawns this morning, friends. Sorry about that. And one more soft belly breath. And then walk your feet into hip distance. So this next one goes something like this. We're going to go ahead and we're going to reach the arms overhead. And then when we exhale, you don't have to add the arms in if that's not right for you. You're going to bring the knees up, bring the toes together, the feet a little wide, the knees a little wide. Bring your body, upper body up, and not just from cranking with the upper body. Tone the low belly down. That's solar plexus work, right? And then I squeeze my knees into my arms for a hot second, right? And then I'll come back down. Now you can bring your feet all the way to the ground. If that feels too intense in the low back, you're just going to leave your knees up, okay? So you have options there. Take an inhale, arms overhead. And exhale, we'll do the first couple together. Again, I come in, it's kind of like a happy baby, or like I was going to do crow pose. I hug my knees into my arms. I tone my belly, belly, belly. And then inhale, control that back down to the ground, or leave the knees hovering if that's too much. Exhale, let yourself lift entirely from the solar plexus, moving down and in. You do round the low back for this one, by the way, yeah? And now you know the pattern, so now you're going to move in and out on your own breath. Again, I encourage you to notice, do you speed up the breath? It might just because it's harder to breathe when you engage the transversus abdominis. Notice that, right? So if it's engaged all the time and you're not breathing completely all the time, well, gosh, that can't be great. Or maybe it's because you want to do 20 of these because you think if you do 20 compared to 5, you're going to be stronger. I would completely disagree with you, by the way, 100%. And if you ever want to debate about it, let's do it. I'm not strong about a lot of things with my opinion, or I try not to be. I try to be open, but that's one that I believe strongly in. I think you can do this stuff really slowly and mindfully, making sure that you engage only the muscles you want to and not engaging the muscles that are not helpful, and you will get way more benefit than moving fast and going into the same postural pattern you've been doing for years, where suddenly you end up with a psoas strain or a rotator cuff tear or whatever that is. Those things usually don't come out of nowhere. And I'm not talking about like a car accident or an acute injury, yeah? And then the next time you come down, you're going to bring your arms to a 45, walk your feet wide, lean your knees in, soften your abdominals. and see if you can. And hopefully you can. And if you can, let it be the softest belly breath you can with whatever's going on in your particular body. And then from there, we're going to come on up. So you can grab the backs of the knees and rock up. I'm dealing with a strange mic pack without a thing, so forgive me while I do weird positions. And then you're going to go ahead and you're going to come into hands and knees. Feel free to pad those knees. And we're going to go right into it. Again, today is just kind of an intensive. I don't mean you should move fast and try to do 5,000 of these. We just had that discussion. But I do think we can take like 15 minutes, right, into this work and have it. Just don't do it 5 times a day, every day of the week, and overdo it, right? So from there, tone the belly gently up, lengthen the spine, and then right arm and left leg are going to lift at the same time, or just one limb if that's better for you, and bring that down, right? And then that left arm and that right leg. Now, a couple of things that you can pay attention to. You're going to keep doing that, by the way. Slow and on the breath, please, mindfully. Don't let your low belly and your ribs move down to the ground if you can help it when you lift. And if they do, I would suggest doing just one limb and then the other and alternating and not lifting both at the same time. You don't have the strength yet to support the weight. And that's not bad. That's okay. Right? Be patient and be kind to yourself, please. A way that I like to work sometimes, because y'all know that's my pattern in a big way, right? Is I like to imagine that there's a ceiling that's all the way down onto my back body, and my sacrum touches that ceiling, my kidneys touch that ceiling, or that area of the kidney band anyway, right? And my upper back and shoulder blades and the back of my head all touch that ceiling. And then when I swim, my arm and my leg come up to that same ceiling. No higher, right? Do one more on each side, still breathing, still mindful, with a lot of awareness in the solar plexus area, the navel center, yeah? And let's take a little break in child's pose this time around. It can be knees together or knees wide. If your knees are together, you end up moving into flexion more. That might feel really good after doing this work. Knees wide, you have that a little bit longer of a spine, and you have that capacity to let that belly really move down between the thighs and play with that supple belly. So as usual, I can't tell you what would be the best version. I'm just trying to point some things out about them so you can find what feels really nice. And sometimes you don't have to think it out too much. You can try both of them if nothing else and be like, yeah, this one feels really good. I'm just leaving my voice, my head a little higher, so if you're looking at me and you feel like you have to mimic me, you do not. Okay. We have one more exercise in this vein, right? So you're going to go ahead and you're going to come on up to hands and knees, curl the toes under, hands by knees, shoot the hips up. You guys know this one pretty good. That's how we often get up, right? Hands on shins, reach the chest forward. Exhale, fold. Your knees can be bent, by the way. And inhale, hands on hips. Your arms can reach up. Come on up to standing. While you're there, reach your arms overhead if you can. And we're just going to do a quick lean over to the right. Just saying hi and getting a little bit extra length. Quick lean over to the left. And come on back to center. So to end this out, we're going to do that chair that we've been working with. So the first one, I want you to bend your knees and you're going to have your hands on your thighs. And I'm not going very far into my bend, right? I'm going to soften my shoulders and my jaw, and then I'm going to do the push-pull. So it's as if I was pushing my hands into my thighs, but I was also pulling my thighs up into my hands. And that action usually gets us into our transversus abdominus in a really lovely way, right? So hopefully you feel the low belly starting to kind of ignite the corset. And then from there, you can leave your hands there. You can reach your arms up, but when you do, don't lose that containment you just found in the front body. Keep the low back so long and protected. You might drop your hips a little lower, but again, don't let that belly or the ribs bulge or flare forward, right? That defeats the purpose of what we're doing today. And then inhale, come on up. Exhale, bring those hands down. So same idea, but getting in the more traditional way. So I want you to imagine you were doing the push-pull, find that containment of the abdomen, and keep that as you start to come down. So inhale, as you start to come down. I mean, right here, when most of us reach our arms overhead is where the ribs go, right? So keep that containment as the arms reach over, or don't reach them over. Keep that containment as you sit down. Find out where is that, where you can hang out for a bit, Quads, remember they have to work like the dickens. Be kind to your quads, please. Don't like, yeah, but I got a squat. I need my quads to be stronger. Yeah. Whatever. Give it up. Keep that belly tone in. This is the voice. I mean, it wasn't that voice, but this is the way I used to treat myself. I think I did more harm than good. Push the heels down and come on up. And bring those arms out and down. We got one more of those, friends. You ready? I needed one more breath. Inhale. As those arms reach up, don't let those ribs flare out. Keep that containment as you start to sink down, knowing you're going to hold it for a couple of moments. Where is a place where you can challenge yourself without being aggressive? Right? So find assertive. It's somewhere between passive and aggressive, and it's a really good middle ground, I think, right? And then notice, some of us, our knees want to go out wide, so can you put more pressure into the ball mound of the big toe, inner heel, right? And get those just as active as the outer edge of the feet. And oh, hey, inner groin, how you doing today, right? Heels down, come on up, reach those arms out and down. You can bring your hands together in front of your heart for our little ending awareness. You can have your arms by your side. Eyes closed or mostly closed. Try to find a long spine. It's true, right? Weight in the heels for many of us. And then for just a moment, right? There's a little activity through that solar plexus area to keep us standing upright and the low back protected, right? So we don't go into that copper tone baby belly. But you still want to be able to have enough freedom that you can soften the belly and it can move on the exhale. So what is that balance for you in your body? It's not hardening this area off, I'll tell you that. But it's very seldom that I teach this stuff when I don't see it in almost every class. Go ahead and inhale, open those eyes. One baby lecture before we go. And if you're doing this multiple times, you can always skip the lecture at some point, right? But so again, just to reiterate, there is a lifting, right? And a movement in like a corset that's supportive and lifts and raises me up. But I can still breathe. And then there is this hardening thing that I see people do, right, where they just whoop those muscles back and in. I'm flattening my low back curve and I'm taking away my lumbar curve. I'm not giving myself any space for the breath to move, the diaphragm specifically, to move down into the abdominal cavity. I'm crushing my reproductive organs. I'm crushing my abdominal organs. And then my digestive, right? And then I wonder why I have issues with digestion, fertility, the various things. I'm not saying that's the only thing that happens, but I do think that plays a role within that. And actually, I just realized you might not have had my head in there for that, but hopefully you didn't need to see my beautiful face. You could just hear my voice, my beautiful voice lecturing you yet again. I love you. Namaste.